Hello and welcome to Piece of Pod, a podcast brought to you by South Coast law firm Warner Goodman. I'm Sarah Whitemore. I'm an employment lawyer and senior partner in the firm with over 30 years of experience. In this podcast, I'll be having conversations with law firm partners, business owners, clients and other contacts of mine, and we'll be engaging in conversations about running businesses, career journeys, and how to excel in the world of work. So if that's of interest, why not grab yourself a cuppa, get yourself comfortable, and let's dive in. Today, I'm joined by Dan Thompson. Dan is a partner in our injury team, and Dan's been with the firm for many years. I think you joined in 1997.
97, yes.
Became a partner in 2005, so been a partner for 20 plus years. And Dan's responsible for a lot of the staffing issues, the training and that sort of thing. So welcome, Dan. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Can I start by asking you a bit about your career journey? What was your first job role?
Well, I think traditionally back in the day it was paper round, as many as possible, after school, before school, doubles at the weekend. But around the age of 14, probably got hooked on law. And I think that was a school trip visit to a local magistrate's court. And we did a mock-up, a bit like your peace of mind tribunals, we did a mock-up court environment. So there were police there. I think they had a couple of paramedics off duty from maybe St John's or somebody, and something like that. And we did a whole mock-up day of this is what had happened, and people were playing different parts of the accused, the witnesses, the lawyers, the magistrates and the bench and that like.
That's interesting.
So I think that was my hook, that this is actually quite an interesting career, a bit different from some of my friends and others at school, and that I think was the hook at about 13, 14.
It's interesting. So my start into law was also observing, but actually observing a true life in actually happening court environment. A local solicitor who I'd been talking to had said, "Oh, you should go and watch it." And the drama of it unfolded, and the sort of the storytelling and so on that happens in court was what sort of hooked me into it. When I started out as a trainee solicitor, I was invited to go along to a session where barristers were being trained on advocacy in the magistrates' court, and I went along as a witness. Okay. So I'd been given a little script. Yeah. I came out having been cross-examined in a fictional case about a crime that had never happened.
Did you feel guilty?
Yes, absolutely. I thought I'd done it. This is terrible. But so you're inspired by magistrates' court hearing, but you didn't go into crime.
Didn't go into crime, but I think it was that whole experience of the UK system. I think LA law was big on the telly back in those days. Very, very different. But I think the hook was still there. And then I did 2 weeks work experience with a firm of solicitors and had some exposure into residential conveyancing, personal injury work, a little bit of crime. I went to Crown Court for a real hearing, and a few trips to the magistrates and such like. But it's sort of that environment in the office and doing some of the office jobs as well sort of hooked me into the whole idea of pursuing a career in the law.
So then you went off and did a law degree. Yeah. I think you went to Southampton.
I did go to Southampton, yes. Yeah, fellow alumni.
And you went to Bournemouth for your legal practice course, and then you joined Warner Goodman as a trainee solicitor. So how has your career journey at Warner Goodman progressed?
I think it was really trying to keep things local, because I went locally to university, but lived in halls and had that experience. Went to Bournemouth University offering one of the second or third year intake of LPC, which was a very big shift away from sort of law society finals and going to College of Law. So that was nice and local. Warner Goodman were one of the local firms that sort of drew my attention. I remember meeting my former training principal, Nigel Lewis, at one of the Southampton Careers Days. I had a lovely chat with him, and it was really that welcoming and warm sense and feeling I got from him that's extended through the interview and joining the firm back as you said, 97.
And so you talked about having exposure even before you joined the firm to a variety of legal disciplines. Yeah. Residential conveyancing, crime, whatever, but you ended up as an injury lawyer. How did that come about?
I think it's the litigation hook. I think it was probably going back to that magistrates' court experience, the questions, the answering, the testing, the evidence, the talking to the witnesses, finding out what the truth of it was, and then that extends through personal injury. and the work we do is in terms of analysing the injury, finding out what the losses are, how it's affected the client, and then throwing in that whole sort of friendly personal vibe into the mix as well.
And you're a plaintiff lawyer. You bring claims rather than defending claims. Was there a reason why you went down that route?
Well, when I was training here at Warner's, we did both. We did claimant work and defendant work. We talk about the changes and the stylistic changes and terminology changes in that period since the late 90s. We're now claimant lawyers rather than plaintiff lawyers, although I think plaintiff is used still in some other areas and maybe making a comeback. But we did do a little bit of both. I like the claimant side of it because it is dealing with real people. You see them perhaps at their lowest ebb, and you sort of help them go on that journey and sort of hold their hand and bring them along with you to try and rehabilitate and get back to where they were before the horrible things that happened to them did.
And you've got that sense of making a change, making a difference to someone's actual personal life. I guess that's another inspiration.
Yeah, that's really appealing to sort of go on that journey and help them and make the recommendations and suggestions and how they can get things back.
Yeah, absolutely. And so alongside being a personal injury lawyer, you're also a member of our business team. And the business team is a team of 3 lawyers who make decisions on behalf of the partnership as to how the business is run, what things we spend money on, how we deal with things of that sort. How have you found it being part of the business team and making business decisions rather than...
It's really good. It's a really good complement to the day job. As you say, there's three of the partners sit on the business team along with our head of finance as well. So again, sometimes it's interpreting the financial data, listening to where we are with the accounts, what we can, what we can't afford, where the priorities are, what the returns are. So it's that entrepreneurial business element that comes out. Really, how can we help ourselves? How can we do the best for the firm, for our staff, and for us individually? So it really complements an extension, perhaps, of the personal injury work as well.
And it's one of those tricky things, isn't it? Because often lawyers come out of university or law school or whatever with a passion for law. But once we're into a business, particularly if we become a partner, you then have to become a business person and look not just at the law, but also at running a business and all the sorts of things that my clients come to me with concerns about employee relations or marketing concerns or whatever it might be. They're all the sorts of things that we have to face as a business, and you and your 2 colleagues are trusted to make decisions about.
Yeah, very, very much so. No 2 decisions are ever the same. There's always nuance and difference to them, and that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you say that the legal profession has evolved during your career?
Massively. From not having computers to having huge computers, supercomputers, big boxes on the screen that were completely inefficient and not very good at all, to where we are now, which is far more mobile, laptops, remote working, hybrid system, all things probably unthinkable 20, 25 years ago. But that's changed in terms of how we do the job. And I think the underpins are still there, but there's certainly within litigation, there's been a big push to make it more user-friendly, make it, even going back to the claimant and plaintiff, moving away from some of the Latin, some of the terminology, make it a bit more user-friendly so that everybody can understand. And our clients now want plain speak, don't they? They just want to know how it affects them, what the issues are, what they need to do, and they don't really want to be tied up in that red tape. So I see that's happened across the whole sector, and I think improved it as well.
And it's interesting, once you've been, we said earlier, you've been a partner for 20 years. I've been a partner for a similar sort of period of time. You get to a point where you can look back. And I look back on my first week with Warner Goodman, and I've said this many times, probably said this on the podcast before, and we had excitement in the office because they had typewriters where they could suddenly type a whole sentence before it hit the page. Obviously, as you described, we've now got to the point where we do everything on our phones and on our mobile devices and so on, and we've got much more information at our fingertips that we can give to clients than we ever had before. And we're on the brink of another sort of surge in that respect in terms of the introduction of AI.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, some businesses have been working with AI for some time. Lots of businesses have embraced ChatGPT over the last couple of years. But we're now looking at the use of AI to help with the efficiencies of producing attendance notes or giving clients more information about what's been discussed with them, because that can all be captured and so on.
Yeah.
How do you see the future of law, and is that something that you're keen to embrace?
I think we have to embrace it. I think there's huge opportunity and potential there. It's the way of the world across everything. We were at home last weekend. We were looking at some online reviews for something, and there's even a little AI version of the review now. You don't even have to read the review. You can sort of just put in some preferences, and the review portal tells you whether it's telling you what you want to hear, or whether it's a balanced view.
It tells you whether you had a good holiday or something.
Well, it's more about where you want to go next time, and it gives you an overview of the review. So it's an AI version of a personal review service. So I think in law there's tremendous opportunities about making things quicker, more efficient, and better for our clients, so we can continue to deliver good quality services with a broad range of capturing all the nuance and perhaps commercial acumen or personal interest of the client, depending on their circumstances. So I only see it as a positive. I think there's a lot of perhaps hesitancy or fear, perhaps across the industry, but I think we should be embracing it.
Definitely. It's something that certainly is helping me with my job at the moment, and will continue to do so. And I'm reflecting on that sort of progression from my first week at Warner Goodman, and now, I've been with us 30 plus years, and seeing that progression. I then look at my daughters, who are both starting out in their careers in very different spheres, and think, gosh, I wonder what their 30-year progression will be, because it's really quite exciting. And I think you're in a role within the business where you've got an ability to influence people's careers, because you're very much involved in sort of mentoring and guiding staff members who are just starting out on their careers. Can you tell us a bit about your role in that?
Definitely. I mean, we've recently proudly launched the WG Academy, which is a new streamlined process for our nurturing our internal talent, promoting and supporting sponsorship, promoting and supporting career development across the legal spectrum and also outside of that. So there's opportunities in accounts, IT, marketing, other areas of business that the firm practices in, as well as just law. And really, the whole environment in law has changed dramatically, as we know, over 25 years. The routes to qualification and the barriers and the perceived barriers to that have all collapsed. We are a firm that is better, and has been for many, many years, by embracing all of that and having non-solicitor partners, which may not have been considered a thing 20, 30 years ago. I don't think there were any non-solicitor partners when I joined the firm, and I suspect that may be the same with you, Sarah. But there are now. Qualified lawyers, but not solicitors. Just as good, different skills, different routes to qualification, and that the extension of that over the coming 10, 15, 20 years is going to be really exciting to see how that develops.
Yes, I think as a firm we've always been keen to develop people's careers. I mean, you and I were both trainee solicitors in the firm, and now we're both what's described as A members, so owners of the business. So we've been developed over that period of time, and other people before us took on that kind of nurturing and encouragement role. I'm of an age where I find myself saying, well, it wasn't like that in my day. So when I look back on how I qualified as a solicitor, at that point you either chose to be a solicitor or a barrister, and that was the academic route, or you became a legal executive, and that was the practical route. You went off to university, you did a law degree, or sometimes you did another degree and it was converted. And then you went to have a year at, in my case, Guildford for law school finals. And then an ordeal by fire. You had 10 exams over 5 days covering all sorts of different topics before finally joining a firm as a trainee solicitor and doing a 2-year training contract. Of course, some of us were still referred to as article clerks because that was the recent change that had happened at that point. Now we have the SQE, and in my team we've got someone who's just qualified as a solicitor through the SQE route. She joined the firm as a document audit clerk, and alongside her work she has been studying hard and becoming a solicitor through that route. It's a way for people to join the firm, the profession, to become solicitors without going through that old traditional route, and I guess is a way of increasing accessibility to the profession. Do you think it's going to achieve that as its aim, and do you think it's a good way of qualifying?
Very much so. To be able to work alongside that study is a tremendous achievement for anybody who does that. And the person within your team, that's a lot of hard work, a lot of graft over many years to reach that point. And it's just a reflection of the different opportunities that exist nowadays that have come with the changes of routes to qualification and particularly the SQE.
I look at that as being an amazing achievement. I personally took the time out to go to university, took the time out. And even when I went to law school, it was a part-time course, but I didn't do any work alongside of that. These people are really challenged and are dedicated to get to the qualifications that they've achieved.
It's absolutely tremendous to see the hard work and the dedication to get qualified in that situation alongside a full-time job is highly commendable. And they've done really well.
There's about, I would say, 7 or 8 ways of becoming a solicitor now. There's quite a lot of different routes, aren't there? And as a firm, through the Academy, we're looking to embrace all possible routes.
Well, that was the inception of the Academy, really. The routes to qualification have changed dramatically. We've just been talking about the SQE exam. That's for graduates from a law degree or a non-law degree. You can also leave college and become a solicitor apprentice, where you study all the key components of what we would have done in our law degree and through the LPC, but in foundation courses leading up to then doing an SQE. So you don't actually need the degree anymore. You can become a solicitor apprentice, and then it's a 6.5-year journey, which replaces the 3-year, 4-year at university LPC finals year and 2-year training contract. And then they do a 2 years qualifying work experience program instead of a dedicated training contract over a 2-year period. And that's 24 months of experience, but it doesn't have to be within 24 months. It can be over a longer period of time. So they could study for 6 months, work for 6 months, and it doesn't have to be with the same firm either.
Right.
So it has to be signed off by a practicing lawyer, solicitor, to say this is work of an equivalent level of legal work, like a training contract, but it doesn't have to be with the same firm, and it doesn't have to be chronologically back to back. So again, it's opening up those opportunities where somebody could say, I want to do a bit of study, a little bit of work, a little bit of study, a little bit of work, and then still reach qualification.
So it might be one of those things that works with people's work-life balance.
Absolutely,
and the different flexible things that we need as employers, but also as routes to qualification. And you mentioned earlier that it's not just the lawyers, but it's not just sort of degree level either. We have paralegals who are going through qualifications who are part of the Academy. And indeed, a couple of our paralegals have been just nominated as award potentials for the National Paralegal Awards.
Absolutely, yeah, tremendous.
And, we're very keen to support those people and to encourage them, because ultimately they may become paralegals and be very good paralegals, but they may become paralegals who then become solicitors, who then become partners in the business, who might be the future of the firm.
Absolutely. And all of what we've just been talking about is solicitor-centric, isn't it? The routes through paralegal and Chartered Institute Legal Executive, SILEX, those routes to qualification are just as important for our business across all of our disciplines. We've embraced that. We've got a number of people on different levels of paralegal studies, advanced levels, litigator levels, all seeking qualification. We've had 2 or 3 people who've finally completed their SILEX studies. Then they have to produce a portfolio and submit work experience to sort of reflect the work, similar to what we would have done on a training contract, but just to show that work in practice. It's as high a bar and as high an accolade and tremendous achievement to reach either solicitor or SILEX qualification through that route.
Absolutely. And so all of this from a partner perspective is about investing for the future, isn't it? Just as we would invest in our buildings and our technology
Absolutely.
And whatever, investing in our staff in this way is all about building for the future, because ultimately you and I would like to retire at some point, I'm sure, and we need that next generation to come through with the enthusiasm and the dedication and hard work that we hope we will.
I think absolutely right. And we've all qualified. We could stand alone as sole practitioner, lawyers, solicitors, SILEX, as it may be. We could practice on our own. We would then have to do everything on our own. We'd have to get our own support. We'd have to worry about our own compliance, our own regulation, and we'd have nobody to bounce those ideas off and talk to. We could all do that. We could all do the technical legal work. But as you said earlier, there's also the element of running the business. Now, whether that's a business for 170, 180 people or a business for 1 or 2 people, it's the same amount of work and thought process. Obviously, different nuance to that with the number of people. But if you've got 2 lawyers together, they can share the burden.
Yeah.
If you've got 180 people in the firm together, you can share that burden. We're better. I think we strongly feel that we're much, much better for having solicitors, Silex, and other people around our partnership table. We are better for it. It makes our firm more diverse, stronger. We've got that flexibility, the agility of the mind and the people. We can approach things with different backgrounds and different thought processes. So it's not just thinking, well, not in my day or not the way I did it, but actually listening to other ways of doing things and reflecting on that. And I think it just makes us tremendously stronger.
Absolutely.
It certainly makes my work on the business team a lot easier, knowing that we've got, the partners with that diverse background, the business heads and the team leaders with that diverse background. So they're all bringing their own experiences, which makes it really exciting.
And if somebody's listening to this, either internally from the firm or any of our external people who are interested in a career in the law, what do you think are the kind of key skills or key qualities that are essential for building that career?
We've talked a lot, haven't we, about how things change over time, and I think that's really the reflection of society and where we are now. But I think underpinning it for law, it's integrity, it's honesty, it's remembering where you've come from, it's remembering perhaps where you're going, adding in friendliness, warmth, personality, the agility to see things from more than one perspective, perhaps, and sort of weigh up the options that are presenting to you. If you've got that open mindset, I think there is potential for you in a future legal career.
We've recently done some client feedback surveys within our Peace of Mind team. And the thing that came through time and again from the clients about what they like about the Peace of Mind team is the pragmatic advice that we give. So it's difficult to teach somebody pragmatism, but it's about saying it's not just about knowledge of the law. That's a given. You need to know the law. You need to be able to digest the law and know the law, but you also need to be able to interpret it and see it from the client's perspective and help the client to see what the solutions might be to their problem with your knowledge of the law.
Yeah. I think pragmatism, common sense, open-mindedness, seeing things from, we fight our client's corner passionately. But we also have to reflect that there will be somebody else's client involved in the process who perhaps will have a different agenda. So we've got to understand that. And then it's a meeting of minds, isn't it? So I think that inquisitiveness, that inquiry, asking questions, we certainly within my team and the training, that there is no such thing as too many questions or too silly a question. The only time I get really concerned is when there's silence and no one's asking questions, because then do we just go along with it for the sake of it? Actually, you do need to test and challenge sometimes and have that lively debate. And so long as everybody around the table approaches that with honesty, integrity and respect, it can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. And you talk there from the perspective of being a lawyer and you're owning the business and running the business and so on. What about Dan the man? So how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance? Because that sounds like an awful lot of work that you're describing there. So how does that...
Yeah, we're all in our work bubbles, aren't we? And I think the importance is having another bubble, maybe whether that's family or a hobby or a pastime or a passion outside that you can be as equally active in. And I think you do need that. You do need that break and sort of counterfoil to it, so you can go and have family time. You can have downtime. I've played a lot of cricket outside of work, occasionally through work. It's just an opportunity to be somebody totally different and have a role in a team, but a very different team. The sort of within the context of the game, the whatever presents itself, the physicality of that or the camaraderie of teammates and doing things differently. So I think that's important to have that sort of counterfoil, and it doesn't really matter what it is. It just has to be something.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very civilised sport, I feel, cricket. I live in Bishop's Waltham, and where I live, I can hear the Bishop's Waltham Cricket Club. And so of a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, the sun's shining and people are politely clapping, and I don't know quite what's going on, but I can hear it. It sounds very civilised. Is that the reality of it?
It can be. As with all things, there can be two sides to that. It is a competition at the end of the day. It is competitive. There is. It's a non-contact sport, but within that there are contests between batsman and bowler, or where the tactical analysis of where the fielders stand and who does what at different times of the game. So it's got all those different sort of intrigues and levels going on to it. But a friendly, civilized afternoon. But within that, there's competition.
That all sounds great. So any final words of wisdom for our audience? Any encouragement you'd like to share with anyone perhaps wanting to come into the law?
I think you touched on it earlier, whether people are already within Warner Goodman as working for us or want to come and further their careers with us. We're an open firm. We pride ourselves on that. We are better for our diversity. We're better for the different backgrounds and skill sets that come to our partnership and to our business around all our teams, and there is a place for open-minded, inquisitive, hard-working, dedicated lawyers at this firm, and it goes beyond just not just within lawyers as well. All our support functions and teams, our accounts team and marketing and IT support, all the things that are in the background that make the firm what it is. So. I think there's a place for people at Warner Goodman, and come to us and show us what you're all about.
Well, here, I would echo that. I think that's a very good summation of our firm and of what we're looking for. So thank you for your time today, Dan. When we do this podcast, at the end of the podcast, we have an audience-sourced question.
Right.
And your question is here in the envelope.
Okay.
So here you go. If you don't mind opening the
course,
envelope and reading the question.
Intriguing. Do I think I would be friends with a clone of myself?
There you go.
I'd like to think so. We all have our moments, don't we? But I'd like to think so. Hardworking, dedicated, passionate, with the honesty and the integrity that we've been talking about. But I'd like to think so.
And someone who's fun to spend time with.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that, Dan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking part in the conversation today. I've really enjoyed it, and let's carry on this conversation off air.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. I hope you found it insightful and empowering. To stay connected, why not hit the subscribe button? Or if you think your friends might be interested, why not rate us as a 5? To be first to know about upcoming episodes, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram and LinkedIn, where you'll find us at Warner Goodman LLP, or follow us on YouTube, where our episodes are at Piece of Pod. Thank you again. Until next time.